Hi, my name is Jake, and I am a bookish drummer. So for this video, I'll be doing a spoiler-free book review for Stephen King's newest release, Never Flinch, which just happens to be the sequel to his previous novel, Holly. And before I jump right into it, I want to say right off the bat, I did enjoy this book more than the previous book, Holly. I really did not enjoy this book that much. A lot of us fellow King booktubers didn't as well. There's some defenders of Holly. Like, if you're a big Holly fan, then you probably enjoyed this book, and you will probably enjoy this book as well. But for me, this book, the word that keeps coming to mind is unremarkable. This book had some good qualities. Like, I enjoyed the pacing. It was very readable, definitely much more so than this book, because this book was bogged down by a lot of stuff that I'll get into later in the video. It was readable, had good pacing. I even enjoyed the villain. But overall, the book itself, Never Flinch, was just unremarkable. I didn't hate it, but I also didn't love it. I gave it 3 stars. And, for this review, I'm going to jump into why that is. And also, alongside the review, I'm just going to kind of review where I'm at with Stephen King at the moment, because I have some thoughts about this whole Holly business in general. But yeah, so with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So, if you guys don't know, Never Flinch is Stephen King's newest novel. Normally, I would like to binge read it on day one, but of course, I work for the post office, and Tuesday when it came out was the day after a Monday holiday, and boy, that was a busy day. I didn't get home until probably 7:30, and I did not have time to binge read it like I normally would, but I've got enough time to film a review for Stephen King Friday for y'all, and I finished the book, and, like I said previously, unremarkable. I gave it 3 stars. It is the sequel to Holly, which the one thing that I did enjoy about Never Flinch is that it was much better than Holly, mainly because it wasn't even necessarily about the story itself, which I'll get into in a little bit, but Holly was just bogged down by so much repetitive talk about COVID and Trump and just all this stuff that really detracted my enjoyment from the overall story. I feel like the story in this one could have been very compelling if it wasn't for all of that back and forth with that stuff, because it was very distracting. This one, Never Flinch, it obviously had a couple of moments here and there where King talks about some stuff, but overall, the pacing was very good. It was very readable, much more readable than Holly. So that alone made it a much better reading experience. I will say, however, and this goes back to, me talking about where I'm at with Stephen King at the moment, this was one of the rare, Stephen King new releases that I was just not that excited for. And mainly because I didn't like his previous novel, Holly, really didn't like it. And so going into this book, I didn't have that excited feeling, jumping into a brand new Stephen King book, not knowing what's going to happen. And really, the last great novel that Stephen King's written was Billy Summers, and that was 4 years ago. Obviously, last year with You Like It Darker, great collection, but not a novel. So really, the last novel that was really great for me was Billy Summers. So I'm really hoping that eventually he will kind of just depart from this character of Holly, and that's another reason why I didn't love this book, is because you already know what characters are going to be involved in. Stephen King himself loves these characters, especially Holly. So the stakes for me just feel very low. So it's not as intense as a lot of his books can get, because by the end of the book, his characters that he's written over these past, 7 stories, they're going to be fine, so it's just I wish he would just move on, is what I'm trying to say. The stakes just felt very low for me. But jumping back into some more positive qualities of this book, like I mentioned, it was much more readable than Holly, because Holly was very bogged down by a lot of COVID talk and it just became such a nuisance to try to read. This book, very readable. The pacing was very good, especially in the first half. I was a bit invested in figuring out what was going on and how it was all going to tie in the end. And one of my favorite aspects as well was the villain, which we figure out is a guy named Trig, or at least that's what he's going by, and what his plan is. And basically his plan, in his kind of messed up mind, is that he's going to kill a bunch of people because of this guy who was wrongly convicted of a crime. He was proven innocent, but he was killed in jail. So he decides to kind of randomly kill a bunch of people in honor of this. So very messed up villain. I really enjoyed his aspect of the story. I wish King would have more focused on him, because there is also another villain, which I won't go into here, but because, I don't want to get muddled down into spoilers here. But Trig was definitely the more compelling villain for me. The other villain, not so much. But by the end, everything kind of came together. But yeah, Trig himself was a very compelling villain for me. One of my favorite aspects of Never Flinch. And of course, the main character of Holly, she can be a bit divisive. A lot of people love her, obviously. Otherwise, I don't think Stephen King would continue her character, because he loves her. A lot of people do love her. But also a lot of people are kind of annoyed that he keeps writing, Holly stories. Like, for most of his career, Stephen King is known for writing standalone horror novels. So the fact that he's continuing to write Holly Gibney with these kind of more mystery thriller types of books and stories, they're probably wanting him to move on. I'm kind of the same way, although I'm a little indifferent about Holly. I don't love her or hate her. She's fine, and she does have really good books and stories with her. Probably my favorite with her as a main character would either be, The Outsider, or If It Bleeds. Very good. But now I kind of just wish he would move on, because it's just getting a bit too much. And yeah, I just want more standalone. It doesn't even have to be horror novels, just more standalone novels where I can just jump in, not knowing what's going to happen, and have that same excited feeling that I normally have jumping into a brand new Stephen King release. I will say one of my least favorite aspects of this book, and this might be more kind of a minor spoiler, but one of the characters that he brings back in here more on the forefront is a character named Barbara and her brother Jerome. But Jerome is less so in this book. He's honestly one of my least favorite characters. But Barbara, again, I'm a bit indifferent about. She plays kind of a more major role in this book, and her story was just very, very ridiculous. She's one of those characters that Stephen King writes where, like, even though, bad stuff kind of happens around her, like, just he's written her as if, like, she's kind of this perfect person, and just so much greatness happens to her, and, like, she's great at everything. Like, I don't normally love those kind of characters. And in this book, so much so that, like, she's befriended by this, like, really famous singer in this world, and they become best friends, and she starts it kind of spirals out of control. We're like, okay, we get it, she's great at everything, literally. And it was just too much. Like, I would get it, like, if it was just more kind of like a side thing here and there, but, like, good God, every chapter we got with her is just like, look how amazing she is. So that was one of my least favorite aspects of the book. And kind of flash forwarding to the ending of the book, which I obviously won't spoil here, I thought the very ending itself was pretty abrupt. Stephen King, he does have great endings, but sometimes, you get to the ending of a King book and it's not quite wrapped up in a pretty neat bow. This book just, it kind of just ends. We're just like, oh, okay, that's how we're ending it. The lead up to it was pretty good. Like, I thought, the build up to it was decent. But the ending itself, which is kind of like, oh, we're done. So I didn't really love the ending, the very ending of the book. So kind of just a summation of my thoughts and feelings about Never Flinch. I did enjoy it much more than Holly. And I'm giving this book 3 stars, and I'm retroactively giving Holly 2 stars because I just realized how much I really don't ever want to reread that book, I could see myself rereading Never Flinch and having a decent time with it. I had a decent time with it this time, but, my main complaint is just that it's very unremarkable. The stakes were very low. And, I ultimately just went into this book not with that same excited feeling I normally have reading a brand new Stephen King book. And it kind of shows because I think these characters are just kind of falling flat for me now. And I really wish he would kind of just move on from the Hollyverse that he's kind of becoming obsessed with. I really hope that some of his next books, I know one of his next books is going to be Talisman 3, and y'all know how much I really don't like the Talisman in Black House, so I'm just like, So maybe these next few years are just not going to be great Stephen King years. Hopefully, maybe he'll come out with another collection, because all of his collections, for the most part, are stellar, especially his newer ones. You Like It Darker was excellent, but his novels, as of late, have not been great, so... All right, so that is my dedicated spoiler-free review for Stephen King's newest release, Never Flinch. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. Gave it 3 stars, but ultimately very unremarkable, and I wish he would just move on from Holly and write something else besides Talisman 3. Come on, man. But yeah, definitely let me know what you guys thought of Stephen King's newest release, Never Flinch. Do you love the character of Holly? Do you love that Stephen King is writing all these Holly books? Are you kind of on the train of King fans that wish he would kind of move on already? Definitely comment down below what you thought of the book and what you think of Holly in general as a character and the continuation of her in stories. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Continue to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I try to do new Stephen King videos every Friday. Probably next Friday. I didn't think I was going to do this, but thinking about it, I think I'm going to rank all of the Holly stories because she has been in 7 books. One of them is a collection, but I think I'm going to rank all of them. Kind of like, I'll do it like in terms of like how I enjoy the books, but also just maybe how Holly plays a part in them because she's not... I don't know. We'll figure it out, and that'll be next Friday, ranking all the Holly books. But yeah, and what else do I say? Bookerstormer Discord, where we're running the Stephen King Book Club. Never Flinch was our pick for the month of May, even though it is kind of late. I know a lot of y'all are going to read it like the first day or the first week, so we have a channel open for discussion if you want to chat about the new book. Also, next month in June, we're going to be reading Duma Key for the book club, so definitely check that out. That's one of my all-time favorites by Stephen King. I've also got my Patreon link down below if you want to go support me there for as little as $1 a month. And I have my Amazon wishlist if you'd like to buy me a book. Thank you guys so much for watching and have a fantastic day.